Good day, welcome to your news at noon on Kaieteur Radio. I'm Kevin Smith. With about 5,000 signatures within a matter of hours, a global non-profit organization, Avaz, has joined the fight for a better oil deal between Guyana and petroleum giant ExxonMobil. Given that the operating permit for Exxon's first oil field, Liza 1, expires next week, May 31st, international advocates and environmental activists have increased momentum to support Guyana in its call for a better financial deal from its oil endowments, as well as adequate protection from environmental and other negatives arising from the country's offshore operations. Avaz representative Martina Dominic said that the organization had launched a campaign 48 hours earlier asking its members globally to send a message directly addressed to the Environmental Protection Agency's executive director, Kemraj Parasram, to ensure more benefits for Guyana through the bargaining of the Liza 1 permits renewal. Dominic said on Tuesday that since the campaign was launched on Sunday, Guyana had received support with some 4,600 signatures coming in from countries as far as Uganda, Qatar, and Guyanese in the diaspora. Meanwhile, ESSO has submitted for approval its Environmental Impact Assessment report for the gas-to-energy project to the EPA for approval. As such, the public will now be provided with a 60-day period to register any concerns it may have with any of the provisions contained in the 3-volume Environmental Impact Assessment submitted to the EPA. Among the glaring admissions in that document is the fact that in addition to the onshore and offshore pipeline to be constructed by that company, said to be to the tune of some $900 million, the oil giant will also be taking on the responsibility of constructing a natural gas liquids plant. And moving on, the government of Guyana and ESSO must open up their books to the people of the country in order for them to obtain a better understanding of what is transpiring with its wealth. This was the clarion call made by Tom Sanzillo, Director of Financial Analysis for the Institute of Energy Economics and Financial Analysis during an online media engagement to appeal to the local authorities ahead of the expiry of the Liza 1 environmental permit to produce oil from that field in the Stabroek Block. Sanzillo was adamant that given the track record of the administration and the oil company since it first began operations, should the EPA renew the permit without financial and other reforms, then it was merely rubber stamping the demands of the oil operators. He pointed to the fact that Guyana this year used up all of its earnings from the oil sector, representing profit and royalty being used in the 2022 budget. He said new spending did occur with the budget ballooning by 37%, but it meant that Guyana also had to go out to borrow $420 million in order to fully finance the entire spending plan for the year. That spending, he said, is not sustainable. Meanwhile, last May 24th, the Massachusetts High Court unanimously rejected ExxonMobil's submission to dismiss a lawsuit against them in which it was stated that the oil giant misled consumers and investors about climate change and the dangers of using fossil fuels. The court ruled that Exxon must face a trial over allegations that it lied about the climate crisis and even hid the fossil fuel industry's role in worsening environmental damage. The lawsuit was brought against Exxon by Massachusetts Attorney General Maura Healey. Exxon called the lawsuit politically motivated and claimed that it violated a state law protecting defendants from lawsuits designed to silence them. And just before we head to a break, let's tell you that China has proposed a sweeping regional security deal with a number of Pacific Island nations amid concerns from the United States and its allies, including Australia, about Beijing's expanding reach in the region. The draft proposal that was sent by China to potential partners in the South Pacific calls for greater cooperation in security, policing and cybersecurity, and in economic development, among other areas. As a result, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi and a 20-member strong delegation arrived in the Solomon Islands on Thursday and kicked off the 8-nation tour. The Chinese government has since inked a pact with the leaders of the Solomon Islands that would see the Asian giant providing support to the Pacific nation in the area of security and other sectors. The time has now moved on to 12 hours 19 in Guyana. We'll take a short break and resume after the break.
Not a single bar of service.
Not with us. Digicel officially has the best mobile coverage in Guyana. Ookla, the company behind Speed Test, recognizes Digicel as the network with the best mobile coverage in Guyana. Be it in Georgetown or in NI, we got you covered. Digicel, better together.
This is GHK Lal, inviting you to join me weekdays from Monday to Friday on the National Outlook for commentary on a range of issues, immediately after the 12 noon and 7 p.m. newscasts on Kaieteur Radio at 99.1 FM and 99.5 FM. Looking forward to you sharing in the conversation.
Welcome back. Let us continue with the news. Following a recent invitation for bids to construct a parking shed at the Ministry of Legal Affairs and chambers of the Attorney General's office, 13 out of the 14 contractors who responded submitted bids lower than the engineer's $8,053,437 estimate. The opening of bids for the project occurred on Tuesday at the NPTAB office. At the opening, it was revealed that the 13 contractors submitted bids ranging from $6.5 million to $7.8 million. Sources said that the ministry is tearing down the old shed and is replacing it with a bigger one to accommodate more vehicles. The source said too that it had raised concerns about the cost of the shed and even called it ridiculous. Meanwhile, the Police Force's Office of Professional Responsibility is currently investigating the death of an abusive husband who was on a Tuesday shot dead by a police rank attached to the Rhymeveld police station. The dead man, identified as 30-year-old Dhyanraj Singh, also known as Steve Singh, was shot around 20 hours Tuesday in the Riverview, Rhymeveld area. His body was found around 6 hours 45 on Wednesday, lying in a mudflat in the Demerara River by a fisherman. Get the full details in today's Kaieteur News. A 66-year-old man died on Thursday at the Ruby's gas station located at Bel Air, Georgetown, moments after ordering fuel for his pickup. The man has been identified as Ahmed Sharif of Nonpareil, East Coast Demerara, and based on information, the man drove into the gas station, ordered his fuel, and collapsed in his vehicle. Persons at the gas station, according to reports, tried to revive him, but when they realized he was unresponsive, they called the police. An ambulance was summoned, and when it arrived, the emergency response team on board pronounced him dead at the scene. In more troubling news, 3 young children tragically lost their lives during the wee hours of Thursday after their North Barnwell Maka home went up in flames. They were identified as 8-year-old Timothy Kippins, 6-year-old Tristan Kippins, and 1-year-old Azalia Flew. According to reports, the fire started after 1 hour. Their mother, Tracy Flew, a security guard, was at work when she received the tragic news that her house was on fire. Fire trucks were unable to gain access to the burning 1-story wooden building because of the deplorable state of the dam on which it was located. The woman said that she suspected that her ex-boyfriend had burned the house down because he had threatened to do so in the past. However, fire investigators were able to determine that the blaze was not maliciously set, but electrical in nature. And just before we go, we turn the pages of today's Kaieteur News, as usual, to the page 7, dedicated to bluntness. No to Liza 1 permit renewal. Guyana has an opening next week to set things right with Liza 1. The Liza 1 permit is up for renewal. It must only be renewed under one condition. Guyana gets increased share. Guyana pays less in expenses, and Exxon pays its taxes. It must be this way and no other way. No concessions from Exxon. No renewal of Liza One from Guyana. And that brings us to the end of today's News at Noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching